The question is, why do Christians hate homosexuals? I'm going to move through this relatively quickly, so please follow along. First of all, Christians don't hate homosexuals. There are Christians out there, they label themselves as Christians, and they really aren't. The Westboro Baptists are not Christians. They're something else, and it would be nice if they label themselves appropriately. Unfortunately, just anybody can call themselves Christian, and there's a lot of very bad ones out there. A Christian is somebody who reads the Bible, studies the Bible, understands the Bible, has a relationship with God, consults with the Holy Spirit, and uses his moral compass or her moral compass to find a direction towards God. Let's talk about some definitions. Christianity. Christianity is simply God wanting to have a relationship with mankind. It's God who created the world. It's God who created mankind. And it is God who has tried to intervene and influence our human behaviors. And we haven't always, we've been stubborn, and we haven't always been tolerable to that. Let's talk about sin. Sin is simply disobeying God's will. It's not about breaking laws. It's about God having a will and desire for you, and anything you do counter to that will and desire is a sin. And that's pretty broad, so keep that in mind. Let's talk about function and dysfunction. Now, if I have a hammer, the hammer has a function. It's got a head to hammer nails, and it's got a claw to remove old nails. If that hammer gets broken, it is no longer functional towards its purpose. It is now dysfunctional. I might be able to find an alternate purpose for a broken hammer, but it's not functional as towards its design. Let's talk about Sodom and Gomorrah. For whatever reason, Sodom and Gomorrah have been the tool for prejudice against homosexuals by Christians, and even persecution. Now, a lot of times when Christians think of Sodom and Gomorrah, just as I did as a young Christian, I thought of towns full of homosexuals, because that's what seemed to be the connotation or the context in which Sodom and Gomorrah were taught to me. Now, that's not true. When you really study Sodom and Gomorrah, let's talk about rape, let's talk about incest, let's talk about bestiality, let's talk about promiscuity, let's talk about pedophilia. Let's talk about any desire of the flesh that has nothing to do with the relationship with God. Let's take homosexuality and let's compare it to incest. What does our moral compass say about that? Which one is worse? How about homosexuality compared to pedophilia? How about homosexuality compared to rape? Do they compare? Are they comparable? My moral compass says no. I hope yours does too. So no, Sodom and Gomorrah were not about God burning down towns and communities of homosexuals because of homosexual behavior. There was much more to it than that, and those people were much worse than some men wanting to have intercourse with men and women wanting to have intercourse with women. So, you know, those Christians out there are confused. There you go. Now, let's talk about Leviticus and the laws. I love Leviticus. Oh, isn't it great? All the Christians, all the non-religious people, they love Leviticus too. They think it's easy. It's their ammunition. It's their rocks for their little slingshots. You know, it's their bullets for their rifles. But I'll have a video on Leviticus, so we'll talk about it, and I'll educate some people on the context of it and why those laws were and what they were about and what the purpose of them was and why God said to stone a woman who has who commits adultery. We'll talk about it. Now, in Leviticus, it would tell me that if I have sex with my wife who is on her menstruation cycle, that I'm committing a sin. Now, am I going to go to hell for that sin? No, I'm not going to go to hell. But as a Christian man, I want to have a relationship with God. God created me. He gave me everything I have, including my daughters and my life, and He gave me His Son as a sacrifice. I owe Him so much. If I love God, why wouldn't I strive to make Him proud of me? Now, if I have a choice, God sees everything I do. If I have a choice on sleeping with my wife once she's on a menstruation cycle or not doing it, and the not doing it makes God much happier than the doing it, why would I do it? Is it... You tell me. People seem to have a problem with that. What's the issue? You know, you want to make God proud. Make Him proud. Now, homosexuality. Some homosexuals I've talked to about this, those that are Christian, that even preach or pastors, they say that homosexuality is not about sex. You can't have homosexuality without sexuality. That's a fundamental part of it. And everything I've seen from homosexual behavior makes the sexual part of it of the utmost importance. There's, I'm not trying to judge a whole group of people, but there's a lot of promiscuity, jumping from relationship to relationship, very rampant lack of commitment. And unfortunately, you know, I don't see a whole lot of happiness. I just don't. I don't. Now, there are exceptions to that, but that's not the rule. Don't really see 10, 15-year homosexual couples that are just thrilled and happy. And, you know, you see it less and less amongst heterosexuals, but it's still present. It's still there. Homosexuality, from everything I've studied, is the equivalent to masturbation. The Bible is very vague on masturbation. It's doesn't go into a huge amount of detail on homosexuality, but its views on whether that is pleasing or unpleasing to God is very apparent on homosexuality. But let's compare it to masturbation. If a teenage boy was to come up to me and he was to say, am I going to go to hell for masturbating to pornography? I'm going to say absolutely not. However, your actions in life decide what kind of relationship you're going to have with God. And if you're a Christian and you believe in God and you want to make God proud, then you're going to want to have absolutely nothing interfering with that relationship with God. Now, if God doesn't approve of you masturbating to pornography, that is going to affect your relationship with God. If a homosexual teenage boy came up to me and said, am I going to go to hell for being a homosexual? I'm going to tell him absolutely not. There's more to it than that. If you're apathetic towards your relationship with God, then you put yourself in a position to have that apathy control your destination to where you're either in the presence of God or you're not. Every relationship requires sacrifice and it requires reciprocation. God cannot have a relationship just with you, and you cannot have just a relationship with God. It's a two-way street. And if your goal as a God-loving individual is to have as strong a relationship with God as possible and to make Him proud, then we sometimes have to overcome our faults, our weaknesses, our desires of the flesh. We have to be responsible. We have to be accountable. Everybody's got issues. Everybody has problems. Everybody has something that they can use to say, this makes my relationship with God hard. Because I know God doesn't approve, but I would like to continue doing it anyways. I'm sorry. Welcome to the human condition. Welcome to the result of Adam eating an apple off the tree. You know, it's part of the way, it's part of the way the story goes. We all have to overcome ourselves. We all have to transcend our desires and move towards a strong relationship with God. The teenage boy who masturbates to pornography, that is interfering with his relationship with God. A homosexual teenager that wants to pursue that lifestyle, that interferes with his relationship with God. It does. Now, in the Bible, there's 10 commandments. Those are deal breakers. Those are what God said, if you do these, you put our relationship at risk, severe risk. Everything else doesn't. But it's not God's will and it's not His desire. It just isn't. So, homosexuality is not a deal breaker. Masturbation is not a deal breaker. But it does interfere with that relationship. And if you love God, you want to make that relationship as strong as possible. So the progressive Christian church would teach you something totally different. They would teach you that God, you know, that there is no good and evil, there's no right and wrong, that you are who you are, you need to live and be happy, and God's going to accept you for the individual you are, and He's proud of you as a homosexual, that He wants to see homosexual behavior. The Christian church worships a different God than I do. I worship the God of the Bible. They worship a God that they made, that they are more comfortable with, that's not judging of them, that they're not afraid of, and that that it's different. Not God. I can tell you that. And that's unfortunate. As Christians, our job is to support and love anyone, including homosexuals. And to say, you know what, you're a human being, you're going through the same trials and tribulations I am, maybe a little bit different scenario, but we all face our different challenges, and you know, I'm here for you. I will do anything I can for you. I don't think that your behavior is going to make your relationship with God as good as it can be, and I hope you find a way to move beyond that and to transcend yourself. You know, we're supposed to be in the world, not of the world. We're here. We have to be here. We have to interact with each other. We have to love each other and support each other. But we don't have to be slaves to our bodies. I'm not a slave to mine. I've been married for 10 years, never cheated. I've seen lots of women that were very beautiful that I thought were, you know, that just, you know, make you look twice or 3 times. But I haven't cheated 10 years. And I'm proud of that. And you should find things to be proud of also. And I'm not just proud of that because it's something I've accomplished. I'm proud of that because I think God knows that I'm a person with weaknesses, and I'm a person with challenges, and I'm a person with problems, and that I overcome those simply because I want Him to be proud of me. I want Him to be proud of me. So you have to ask yourself, how do you want God to be proud of you? Continuing with earthly desires of the flesh probably isn't the answer. Probably isn't. Using your body parts for purposes other than their intended function, probably not. My mouth has a purpose. Everything on my body has a purpose. And I think it's best if I keep it to those intended functions and not step out of that. I wish I could give you a much clearer answer, but you know, wherever you're coming from this, whether you're a Christian looking at someone else's rational, logical point of view, or you're a homosexual that wonders why Christians tell you that you're going to go to hell, I don't think you're going to go to hell. I've studied the Bible. I've read the Bible. I've read Thomas Aquinas. I've read St. Augustine. I've read the Catechism. I've read the Quran. I've read it all. I mean, just about any book that has to do with religion. And you're not going to hell for being a homosexual, but you will go to hell for being apathetic towards your relationship with God. If you're concerned about your immortal soul, you're concerned about where you're going to end up, and you're concerned about whether you're going to go to heaven or not, it's time to start thinking about what's interfering with your relationship with God. Is sexual gratification more important to you than going to heaven? If it is, if the answer to that, the sexual gratification is, then I don't think it's so much about the sexual gratification. It's about where you put your priorities with your relationship with God. If He is below your bodily functions and your bodily desires, that's not very high. It's not. Think about it. Not very high. So God's pretty clear in the Bible. It's not a behavior He approves of. He doesn't want to see people live a homosexual lifestyle. And I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I know that you're not striving with any other problems that other people aren't striving with similar ones. We all have issues. We all have problems. We all have to overcome them. Be better people. Be better individuals. But as soon as we become slaves to them, trying to have a relationship with God sometimes is pointless. But you know, I hope this answers your questions. I know that life isn't fair, and I can only imagine what it's like to be in a situation where your body is different than what your mind tells you it should be. But I know that people suffer with all kinds of things, and they overcome them. And unfortunately, this is not easy. It's hard, and it requires strength and effort. It doesn't require unhappiness, I don't think. Why can't you have relationships with other men or other women, depending on what your gender is? But does it really have to come down to simply a sexual gratification? And not only that, most importantly, ask yourself this: where is my relationship with God in comparison with my bodily desires? Think about that. It's not about what you're doing with your body. It's about the priority you're putting on your relationship with God. Hope that answers it. I want you to know that I think that everyone is awesome, great people, and I think we all have challenges. I'm not perfect. If you can read my blog, if you can find it, and you can read all about my issues and problems. But I do strive to overcome, and you should too. Anyways, peace out.